Howdy doody live leak, I hope I find you in good spirits and all well. I'm back at WhiteRock Conservation Park, the same place that I did the previous video if you saw that. This time though I'm on a different trail. I'm walking to the place where the park has been named, to WhiteRock, surprisingly. This is 25 kilometres, 30 kilometres southwest of Brisbane, about 20 miles approximately. On this map here, I'm walking a trail which isn't quite on the map, but it's basically following the yellow line there and the loop at the bottom, although I'm doing a slightly harder trail that isn't on that map and it goes a slightly different route. I'm going to see one or two little diversions on the way and see what we come across. There's a few other little lookouts you can get to. This is class in Australia as a class 4 walk, or the main trail is classed as a class 4 walk, and what they do here in Australia, you have a class system of trails, 1 to 5, 1 being the easiest, which is sort of a hardened surface for wheelchair users and all users, and a 2 and a 3, and a 3 is sort of expect some obstacles and maybe uneven surfaces, and 4 is expect a lot of obstacles, and then 5 is anything sort of beyond that really. So here I've just gone up a little a little detour to a lookout up on the top of this rock here. It's not the best lookout in the world because, as you'll see in a minute, pretty much all you can see around me are trees. It's not quite high enough to see a bit beyond that. A lot of this area is, again, as I was saying in the last video, this is a subtropical area, but a lot of this area here particularly is eucalypt forest. And this is actually very good for creatures such as koalas, which live off them. Koalas actually are quite interesting animals. They're the only, I don't think they're unique in this, but they're the only animal I can think of off the top of my head, which are actually born without an ability to digest their food. They don't have the correct enzyme to digest eucalypt trees. What they actually have to do is their mother secretes the enzyme in her excrement, which is called pap, and a koala has to eat it to get that enzyme in its stomach, and then can carry on and eat the tree. I'll just tell you here, anyone who is walking this trail, I know that's only going to be a very, very few select few of you guys here on Live Leak. This is sort of the first fork in the trail. The Class 4 route to WhiteRock goes to the right in a second. This is a haulage road actually I'm on. This is serves as also and also serves as a fire trail for, in case there's forest fires, which is quite common here. But if you're going to the Class 4 track, the main trail, that's to the right. The Class 5 is straight on about 50 metres, and then turn right at this sign here, and then you're up into the slightly rougher stuff. It's not actually particularly hard. So anyhow, koalas need to eat their mother's excrement baby koalas need to eat their mother's excrement before they can eat anything at all, which they feed off eucalyptus leaves. More so than that, they actually can only digest certain types of eucalyptus leaves, so their ability to forage for food is actually quite limited. Koalas actually are technically blind beyond a metre and a half. I've never actually seen one in the wild. I've seen most other animals in the wild here. I've seen a wombat in the wild, if you include one being dead by the side of the road. I'm not quite certain if that really counts. But I've seen things like the duck-billed platypus, which, when that was first discovered, people thought the taxidermist was playing a joke on them, that they had taken the body of a beaver and stuck a duck's bill on it, as you would, until it was live specimens were recorded and so on and so forth. Duckbill platypi actually have, or is it platypus, is it Greek or Latin? Can't remember. The duckbill platypus itself, firstly, is venomous. It has a venomous spur on its hind leg, which is actually potentially quite seriously, potentially lethal to humans. So they're not all cuddly. They're also one of only two animals, the echidna being the other, to lay eggs. And both of those are found here in Australia. They're native to Australia. So I'm just slowing down here just to show it's quite a beautiful day out. Lovely green grass, beautiful sun, and a little bit of view. Actually, the one thing about Australia, and particularly here in Queensland, is most other areas of the world you're normally quite happy to get the sun. Here you want to try and stay out of it a bit too. If it gets here you want to try and stay out of it. You'll get burned pretty quick here. Australia actually has the highest skin cancer in the world. And the sun here can burn you within 6 minutes quite easily on a hot summer day. So I'm just going along the edge of a cliff here and coming down a little, what you might call a gorge, bit grandiose word for that really, a little cutting in the inside of the hill, heading on to WhiteRock. Now WhiteRock is made of white sandstone. It's just an outcrop, and I mentioned very briefly in my last video, it was actually used by American service personnel in the Second World War. They had training, there it is there's WhiteRock. They had training outpost here, and the Americans in 1942 put an observation post on the top of it because it has such a good view of the area, as you'll see shortly. So this is the rock itself. But not just satisfied with that, I thought I'd have a look up the top. Because the Americans used this for their training in the 40s, it actually gave rise to the park mainly because they couldn't do any logging here because there were munitions in trees and on the ground and such that heavy machinery is liable to disturb, shall we say. So they left it alone, and it's from walking point of perspective, it's a good thing that they did. So as you can see, it's got a pretty commanding view of all around. I'm climbing right up to the top here. I can get up. It's covered in graffiti, all these rocks. Some of them actually do date back to the American service personnel. Apparently they will climb up here, or when they're stationed on the lookout post, observation post, and they will carve their name into the rocks with their bayonets. So this whole walk itself is about 4 miles, which is about just over 6 kilometres return. It's not a very long walk, it's not very taxing. It's pretty easily done, really. But before the Americans were here, there would have been obviously the Aboriginal peoples of Australia. Indeed, just back then, I'm not sure if you noticed, there was sort of a squiggle symbol. That was almost the kind of thing you would expect to see here. That isn't original, that's been done more recently. But you get still the caves here in the side of the hill and the rock formations, and the Aboriginal peoples would have used this. It might even been sacred at one point to them. There are lots of different tribes of Aboriginals here, just as there are lots of different tribes of, say, Native Americans, to give an example which would be roughly synonymous, homologous. The the Aboriginal peoples, fairly ubiquitously, when a member of their tribe dies, it is against Aboriginal custom to then mention them by name, or indeed in more recent years have a photograph or video of them. This is because they believe that it is disturbing the spirit. So once someone snuffs it, you don't talk about them anymore, certainly not by name, which to Western cultures, or probably most other cultures, must seem fairly, well, it does seem fairly odd really, as we like to sort of memorialise the dead and try and remember them as much as possible, but particularly through names and images, photos, paintings, what have you. So I've just done the circuit all the way around the rock here. I'm climbing back up, I'm sort of looping round on myself now. I've looped back on myself now here, and I'm going back the same way. Well, I've sort of rambled on a bit, guys, about whatever's come to mind. I hope you don't mind too much. I don't script this, I just sort of play it from the hip, as it were. So it's a bit rough and ready. Here I'm just climbing back up through that little, what shall we call it, cutting. I think in Yorkshire they call it a grike. And back up the top I go. Back up to top. Yes, I hope you don't mind it too much. You can always put me on mute if not. Thanks very much, guys. Hope you enjoyed some of the scenery. And I'm sorry about the quality loss. Trust me, what I view on my computer is not what you're seeing now. It looks a lot clearer and sharper on mine. Anyhow, thanks guys. See you around.